Before we begin, make sure to check out the voice actors, Nick Cortez and the Shapeshifter. Their links will be in the description. What if Anakin Skywalker was a Jedi bounty hunter? Let's start the story 3 years after The Phantom Menace. In the 2016 Obi-Wan Kenobi comics, Anakin admits to Obi-Wan that he wishes to leave the Jedi Order as he feels his path in the Force lies elsewhere. In the comic, he changes his mind and decides to stay in the Jedi Order. However, in this story, we are going to have Anakin stick to his original beliefs and leave the Jedi Order and Obi-Wan behind. Anakin is 13 years old and is mature for his age. By this time, he's had all the formal Jedi teaching about lightsaber combat and enough training in the Force that he's a powerful Force user. But to reach his full potential, he must train and hone in on his skills. He decides to travel back to Tatooine and takes his lightsaber with him to see his mother after 3 long years apart. He's introduced to the Lars family, where she now lives, and takes up residence with them there. He spends some long overdue time with his mother, and they catch up on the past 3 years, and Anakin begins working on their farm. He does this for around 6 months, but can't help him feel dissatisfied with the situation. They are very poor, harvesting water, a resource that's plentiful on other worlds. He can't do this for the rest of his life, and is determined to improve the living conditions for his family. One day, he ventures into Mos Espa in search for a better work opportunity. He has little success, and nothing catches his eye that pays a good enough wage to support his family. At the end of the day, he walks into a restaurant for refreshments, and as soon as he enters, he specifically notices one individual, a being sitting at a table in a cowboy's hat. He's trained long enough in the Force and knows when it's calling to him, so decides to approach this man. He's sitting alone, and Anakin sits down in the seat across from him.
I'm looking for work. Are you hiring?
Get lost, boy. You don't work in the industry I'm in.
Then what industry is that?
Snatching, grabbing, killing, any of the sorts, for the right price.
You're a bounty hunter?
The best there is. Now get lost before you upset me.
Anakin moves up halfway out of his seat, but then thinks about this. He's heard of the bounty hunting profession and how much it pays. He could really support his family this way, more so than any other job on Tatooine. Plus he has the skills for this that he learned during his time as a Jedi Padawan. He sits back down, which makes Cad Bane sit forward.
This is your last warning, kid.
Train me. Teach me how to become a bounty hunter.
Cad Bane hasn't trained anyone in years, and vowed to himself he would never do it again.
Why should I train you? What could you possibly have to offer?
Bane takes off his hat and puts it on the table and glares his red eyes at Anakin.
Lying is not the best course of action here, boy.
I'm not lying.
Prove it.
And Anakin does just this. He uses the Force to steal Bane's hat, twirl it around in the air, and put it on his own head. Bane's eyes go wide. The boy wasn't lying. He really was a Jedi.
Now, things just got interesting.
He contemplates in his mind whether he should train the boy. He could be useful to not only him, but the Bounty Hunter Guild as a whole. A Jedi as a bounty hunter could become the best of them all, and them all working together, they could be unstoppable. But he has to ascertain whether Anakin has the potential.
Here are the coordinates of my ship. Attack me before the sun sets. If you're successful, I'll think about training you.
And Anakin does just this. He plans for his attack and approaches his ship as the sun begins to set. Anakin grew up on the sandy dunes and knows how to steer clear out of sight. He suspects Bane will be watching from his ship, and Anakin uses the configuration of the shadows made by the ship and dunes to stay out of sight. He reaches the ship unspotted and looks for an entrance. He knows how ships work in and out and decides to enter using the mechanic's hatch underneath. He pops it open without making a sound and enters the weapons room of the ship. Everything is in place, which makes Anakin think Bane might be unarmed. He searches room by room until he reaches the cockpit and sees the blue head of Bane sitting at the pilot seat. He ignites his lightsaber and puts it right at Bane's neck. And Anakin taunts Bane by telling him he's not as good as he thought he was. But as Anakin says this, the Bane in front of him flickers as Anakin realizes it's a fake, a hologram, and before he can act, The real Bane drops down from the ceiling and points his blaster at the back of Anakin's head.
I thought the Jedi taught you to be wary of your surroundings.
Anakin retracts his lightsaber and admits defeat, but Bane was surprised with Anakin. He successfully entered his ship undetected and stealthily moved around and wouldn't be detectable to most people. He was impressed.
You have surprised me, boy. I will train you, but first, we must get rid of that blue lightsaber. I have something that may help.
He opens a drawer to his left and pulls out a yellow kyber crystal that he stole from a Jedi he killed and hands it to Anakin, who uses the Force to dismantle his lightsaber and swap out the crystal. Anakin says goodbye to his mother and the last family for the time being and embarks on his journey to become a bounty hunter. Cad Bane's training of Anakin was ruthless. He was harsh, cold, and sometimes even cruel, but this only helped Anakin's skills grow. He decided to wield a blaster as well as a lightsaber and learned to quick draw as fast as Bane with the help of his Jedi reflexes. But Bane incorporated aspects of the Force into Anakin's training. Over his years of work, he's collected both Jedi and Sith holocrons with teachings from various masters of the art. Anakin learned from these and adopted the power and knowledge they held. He didn't care about Sith or Jedi, light or dark, and only cared about strength and power. And through studying the holocrons, power he would achieve. One holocron that he favored was the Sith holocron of Darth Nox, a Sith Lord from thousands of years ago, and learns the power of Sith lightning, which becomes Anakin's signature move. But his lightning wasn't the normal sapphire blue, but a crimson red. It's important to note, Anakin isn't corrupted by the dark side. He simply uses the power it gives him. He's essentially a grey Jedi, utilizing both aspects of light and dark. Overall, Bane taught him all the tricks of the trade, how to act with employers, how to take targets alive or dead, the legal and illegal parts of bounty hunting, and the various unexpected weaponry one could carry to help with the capture or a fast escape. This included paralyzing darts, smoke grenades, rocket boots, concealed explosives, and various antidotes, making him ready and prepared for whatever situation may arise. But Anakin also wanted to keep his identity hidden, to keep his family safe, but also from the Jedi and his previous life. He and Bane constructed his own mask out of Beskar, perfect for concealing his identity. Anakin's training lasted a long 2 years, but he reached the point at 15 years old where he could hold his own against Bane in combat. He visited his mother often and dropped off what money he was making, who was delighted with how Anakin was providing for their family. However, something unexpected happened during this period. Bane, who's normally cold, dejected, and selfish, actually started to care for Anakin and saw him as the son he never had. They had a strong bond together and would put their lives on the line for each other. For the next 3 years, they worked as bounty hunters together and carrying out jobs from many different employers, and Anakin's reputation within the bounty hunter world grew, and they were collectively seen as the strongest bounty hunters in the galaxy. Whenever someone had a job that needed to have a guarantee of completion, Anakin and Bane were called upon for their services. Stories and whispers of the new strongest bounty hunter duo echoed throughout the stars. Because they were in such high demand, they could charge a high fee, and both made a lot of money together. Anakin would send most of his money back to his family on Tatooine, who lived in luxury on the planet for a while, before moving to Naboo in the inner core. Anakin reached out to Padme, the person whom he's thought about every day since they first met, and he still harbors love towards her. She was very happy to hear from Anakin after all this time. Anakin asked for her help in relocating his family, and asked whether they could move to Naboo, and Padme agreed, and made the necessary arrangements. However, after this, Anakin and Padme kept in contact, talking often, but Anakin didn't tell Padme he left the Jedi Order, so she knew nothing about him being a bounty hunter and assumed he was still a Jedi. Shmi was worried about how Anakin was changing, but he reassured her that he's not losing sight of himself, that the only thing he cares about is his family and will do anything for them. Shmi can resonate with this, as she's personally seen how cold the reality of the galaxy can be, and alongside the Lars, she's eternally grateful for what Anakin has done for them, take them from a life of poverty to luxury. 1 year before the Clone War, after Anakin had turned 18, he and Bane decide it's time for a change in the bounty hunter world. They all work for various guilds, which pass work to them. However, they take a large cut and reduce the profits of the hunters. Because of this, Bane and Anakin start their own bounty hunter guild called the Shadow Syndicate, prided on strength, where only the strongest 30 bounty hunters in the galaxy can join. A few examples include Jango Fett, Bosk, Aurora Singh, Fennec Shan, and many more. Anakin and Bane are the leaders, as they are the strongest, and the guild works for themselves, and thus can make more money. There's also a sense of loyalty in this guild, and often double up and join each other on various missions to guarantee success. News of this new elite bounty hunter guild reached Coruscant, and the Jedi were increasingly wary of it. The Jedi get intel about the whereabouts of their next mission, and dispatch Obi-Wan Kenobi to gather intel on the Syndicate. The Jedi's intel was correct, and Obi-Wan tracks the guild member to the planet Cruel. He follows close behind, hiding his presence, and waits for the perfect time to do a quick snatch and grab, so he can question this bounty hunter. But as he goes to grab him, he pulls under Obi-Wan's arm, and pushes him back with the Force. They lock eyes, and both share a shocked look on their faces. Anakin is face to face with Obi-Wan after 8 years.
Anakin? Is that you? Obi-Wan. Been a very long time. Don't tell me you're part of the Shadow Syndicate, Anakin. What have you been doing all these years? I don't have time to explain it to you, but now you know the truth. I lead the Syndicate. Because of our history, I'm not going to fight you, unless you try to stop me. Anakin, your job is to kill an innocent man. How can you do this? Oh, because the Jedi are so innocent? I do what I have to survive, and give my family the life they deserve. Don't get in my way.
Anakin begins walking away, but he knows it's futile, and can sense Obi-Wan rushing towards him. He ignites his yellow blade to block the oncoming attack from Kenobi. They duel it out in the streets of Cruel, but it ends with Anakin catching Obi-Wan off guard with his Sith Lightning, a technique Kenobi didn't expect from Anakin, as he leaves the Jedi Master, writhing in pain as he completes his job. Obi-Wan takes the news of Anakin Skywalker's fate to the Jedi Council, who can't help but feel worried about it. They are particularly worried because he was deemed the chosen one and has the potential power to be extremely strong and therefore a potential threat. They've been sensing a rising darkness for years now, and wonders whether Skywalker is involved. He did use Sith Lightning, a technique that can only be wielded by dark-side users, but also fear that if the rising darkness is not due to Anakin, that he'd be very susceptible to influence from the Sith. 1 year passes by, and the guild successfully evade the Jedi and Republic police during this time. All 30 members of the guild stand around their governing table as an order comes in from Count Dooku of Sereno, one of their top employers, for the assassination of Padme Amidala, Senator of Naboo. Cad Bane goes to carry out the normal process, but Anakin freezes. Padme Amidala, the angel he met on Tatooine and has thought about every day for a decade. Every time they talk, he's overjoyed and looks forward to this part of his day. He's wanted to see her again after she helped his mother and has considered doing this, and his love for her has not faded. He stands.
We won't be carrying out this order.
Everyone looks around confused.
What do you mean, Skywalker?
Why not, boss? But I want to kill the senator.
And Bane takes Anakin aside.
Don't let your feelings get in the way, Anakin. We don't want to get on the bad side of Dooku, a good and powerful employer.
But Anakin speaks over Bane and raises his voice so everyone can hear.
We will not be taken on this order. That is final.
And he walks out of the room. However, one member of the guild decided to oppose Anakin's orders. Jango Fett had a good relationship with Dooku. He'd been working with him for years now on the Clone Army project and contacted him personally to express his interest in taking on the contract. Dooku agrees, and Jango goes to Coruscant to carry out the assassination. However, back at the guild's headquarters, Anakin notices Jango is missing and tracks his ship logs to Coruscant and knows there's only one reason he'd be there. Anakin boards his ship and follows immediately. He arrives on Coruscant for the first time in 7 years and heads to the senator's apartments, but can't sense Padme's presence anywhere. But then he latches onto Fett's and steals the speeder and heads towards it immediately. He arrives just in time to find Jango standing over Padme with a blaster about to fire. Anakin uses the Force to pull Jango Fett against the wall and goes to blast him with Sith Lightning, but he fires up his jetpack and escapes.
Skywalker, you fool!
Anakin looks down at Padme, seeing her for the first time in a decade, and kneels down to help her up, her beauty causing him to lose the words in his mouth. He helps her up, and she asks for his name, and Anakin jokes about how she doesn't recognize him, but then it hits her, and she calls out Anakin's name. Even though they've been talking throughout the holonet for years, Anakin has changed so much from the boy he was on Tatooine. They have a very brief conversation, with both of them delighted to see each other after so long. But this is broken as Obi-Wan approaches them.
Padme, get away from that man! Are you behind all of this, Anakin?
But Padme looks back at Obi-Wan and tells him that Anakin saved her.
Good. So there is some humanity left in there after all.
This confuses Padme, and she asks Obi-Wan what's going on. Isn't Anakin a Jedi?
He left the Order 10 years ago, and now leads the ruthless Shadow Syndicate you've heard about in the Senate.
Padme looks back at Anakin with shock in her eyes, and asks Anakin why he never told her, and how he could do this, and what would his kind mother Shmi think.
Don't judge me from your high horse, Padme. I do what I have to for my family to survive. Without me, they'd be slaving away in the sand of Tatooine for the rest of their lives. But I've built a wealth that will last generations, and my mother is more than proud.
Padme shakes her head in disappointment at Anakin, thinking about the kind boy all those years ago, and wondered how it could come to this. That the person she's been talking to all these years couldn't murder people in cold blood.
I think it's about time you leave, Anakin.
He takes one last look at Padme and laughs under his breath.
I was excited to meet you again, Padme. I've thought about you every day for the last 10 years, and I've held special feelings for you in my heart. I guess this wasn't reciprocated.
And with that he leaves, but Anakin was wrong. Padme did feel the same way, and her heart skipped a beat. Jango returns to the Syndicate, and is given a stern warning. If he betrays the Syndicate again, there will be no mercy. However, this doesn't matter, as he dies the following week to Mace Windu, and the Syndicate take in Boba Fett. The Clone War begins, and the galaxy is thrust into chaos. The Guild is active behind the scenes in the war, and works for Count Dooku, hunting down war targets, politicians, and key Jedi that Palpatine wanted eliminated. They do this, and take on a few jobs for around a year or so, until the order comes in for the assassination of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Anakin closes his eyes. Although their relationship has been rough in the past years, he still owes Kenobi a lot, and overall has positive feelings towards him. He doesn't hate Obi-Wan, he never has. Deep down, he wants to be friends with him, but knows this isn't reciprocated. But Anakin also knows he can't bring himself to kill him. But instead of Anakin flatly declining the request, he discusses a change in strategy with the Guild. He tells them, with the Clone War, there is an opening for a new order of power in the galaxy, one they will fill. But also the fact that the Sith are behind the war is troubling. For thousands of years, the Jedi and Republic have essentially permitted bounty hunting, and haven't been able to stop the profession. But the Sith are different. They would stomp it out by any means necessary, and they would no longer be able to work for themselves. Their power and wealth would be significantly reduced, and thus have to take out the Sith to ensure the survival of their profession. And if they do this, they can gain true power and make as much money as they please. Together, they have the strength and collective funds to do this, and Anakin tells them how. They begin by taking out their biggest threat, Dooku. The next time they capture one of Dooku's targets, and it comes to confirm their death, the Sith Lord is ambushed by the entire guild and killed. Not even a Sith could defend himself against that onslaught. Then they take over each crime syndicate one by one. The Black Suns, Crimson Dawn, the Pikes, and finally the Hutts. They unite them under one new collective order, their Black Horizon, and they now have the ability to rival the key powers in the galaxy. After Dooku's death, there is a power hole in the Separatists, and Anakin fills this, introducing himself as the Tatooine Senator, taking over from the Hutts, and the Guild takes control over the Separatist Senate. Anakin addresses their Senate, and tells them his goals align with Dooku, victory for the Separatists in the war. However, he believed Dooku incapable of bringing about this task, and felt an obligation to the people of the Confederacy of Independent Systems to take over. Anakin is accepted in, and the Guild takes over all Separatist activity, and combine them with the Crime Syndicate, and join their forces in the Clone War against the Republic. Bane takes on the role of head military officer, and works alongside Anakin to strengthen their forces. In the original timeline, Dooku and Palpatine held back the Separatist forces so the war could go on for longer. However, now Anakin unleashes the full might of the Separatists against the Republic, and the war is beginning to turn in their favor. However, what Anakin learned following Dooku's death would change the fate of the galaxy. Anakin took over all of Dooku's files on Sereno before they could be wiped out, and he can't believe what he's reading. Chat logs back and forth between him and the Chancellor's office on Coruscant, as well as the Kaminoans. This makes Anakin realize that this whole war has been fabricated by Dooku and the Chancellor Palpatine, but for what purpose? In this story, Anakin knows nothing about Sidious or even the fate of the Sith. He spends hours searching through Dooku's records, as he feels a cold shiver go up his spine as he looks up to see a hooded figure walk into the room, and can no doubt sense the dark side leeching off him.
Who are you?
The last person you will ever see.
Palpatine has come to avenge his apprentice. The two engage in a fierce duel, and Anakin can no doubt feel the power of this man. He has to use every battle technique he knows, both in the Force and bounty hunter tricks in this battle. But Sidious gets the best of Anakin, and disarms him and holds his blade at his throat. The recent events flood through Anakin's mind, as he attempts to figure out who this person is. Obviously a Sith Lord, stronger than Dooku, potentially his master, but then it clicks for Anakin, as he links Dooku's communication history, and determines this must be Chancellor Palpatine. Just as Palpatine goes to bring down his saber on Anakin, Bane rushes in and interlocks Palpatine's arms with a wire gun. Anakin kicks him away, and he and Bane engage their rocket boots to crash through the office window and make their escape. Anakin learns some useful information during this time, and decides to use it for their advantage. He thought with Dooku's death, the Sith would be gone, but he was severely mistaken. He'd only awoken the stronger beast, and had to deal with him next. Anakin reaches out to the Republic to have an in-person discussion about a ceasefire and a potential end to the war. This takes place, and Anakin brings key members of the Separatist Council and sits opposite Palpatine with key senators, Bail Organa, Padme Amidala, and many more, as well as half of the Jedi Council. As Anakin enters, he smiles at Padme, who reciprocates, and Anakin was surprised by this, and can't help but wonder if there is still potential for them in the future. Palpatine begins the discussion, but Anakin stops him, and turns to the Jedi Council.
What do you know of the Sith?
They respond with what Anakin expected, the rule of two, and also how Darth Sidious is the sole surviving Sith with Dooku's death. And Anakin taunts them with his next response.
What if I told you I know who Sidious really is?
The Jedi Council show clear discomfort, but simply tell Anakin he's bluffing. But Anakin tells them he's not. He's learned the true identity of Darth Sidious, who really is Chancellor Palpatine, and explains everything from what he learned in Dooku's archives, communication between the Chancellor, Kamino, and also his fight with Sidious. He concludes by telling them this whole war is a fabrication of the Sith, and that they've played right into his game. Palpatine simply brushed this off, telling everyone it's simply lies to turn them all against each other. But Anakin hands over many documents containing proof to what he's saying, but also asks the Chancellor if he'll consent to a midichlorian count right here, right now. The Jedi can do it. It'll only take 30 seconds. Palpatine freezes, as he knows he's been trapped. He expected Anakin to deduce the Sith had been controlling both sides of the war from the very beginning, but not that he was Darth Sidious. He agrees, trying to maintain composure, but Anakin senses it cracking. The Jedi take the blood test and wait for the result. The second it comes through, and the Jedi's eyes go wide, Palpatine strikes, using the Force to ignite his lightsaber and decapitate Kit Fisto and Agen Kolar. The rest of the Jedi, Yoda, Mace Windu, Shaak Ti, Saisi Tin, Obi-Wan and Anakin, ignite their blades in response. Sidious heads straight for Anakin out of pure rage, but Skywalker parries the strike and counters with aggression. The room turns into a flurry of lightsabers, and Bail and Padme attempt to escape. Palpatine takes out Shaak Ti and Saisi Tin with his insane speed, and now faces the remaining Jedi. He laughs as they're launched into another flurry. Windu uses the Force to push Palpatine away, but this was towards the side of the room where Padme was, and in Palpatine's rage goes to kill her. But Anakin uses the Force to stop his blade, and Obi-Wan capitalizes on this moment and thrusts his lightsaber through Palpatine's side. He stumbles back in pain, and the 5 of them attack in succession and overwhelm his defenses, but don't kill him and put him in handcuffs. Padme, in shock, grabs onto Anakin right beside her, and he feels the warmth of her body against his. He hugs her back and realizes the deep feelings he holds towards her. Her potential death had woken something inside both of them. The situation is resolved, and the senators and council members collate the evidence Anakin has given them and prepare to leave and present it to the Senate so they can justify Palpatine's arrest. They thank Anakin for his help, but he tells them this doesn't change anything. The Separatists will continue to advance until they have victory. They look at Anakin, all slightly shocked, half expecting them to come to a truce, but so be it. However, when Anakin's eyes lock with Padme, he can't help but feel he's making the wrong decision. He wants to win the war for the power it will give him and the Syndicate, but his feelings towards Padme are fighting this within him. Before she leaves, Padme asks Anakin if she can have a moment of his time. During this, she begged Anakin to reconsider his choices, that she knows deep down he doesn't want war, that the young boy from Tatooine wouldn't want the people of the galaxy to suffer, but rather the opposite. Anakin doesn't say anything, and Padme knows her words have hit home. She grabs Anakin's hand, much to his surprise, and tells him she's been thinking a lot about him recently, after they reunited, and can't get him out of her mind. Anakin looks her in the eyes, and tells her that he feels the same way, and she begs him to end this war, leave behind his past life, and begin a future with her. Silence encompasses their room, and Anakin nods his head, and he now knows this is the path he must walk on from here on out. Anakin heads back to the Separatist Senate and calls for a meeting. He tells them he's decided to enter negotiations with the Republic to bring about an end to the war. This was actually supported by the majority of the Separatist Senate, but in the original timeline, Dooku ignored this and removed any political rivals that favored this course of action. He leaves the details to the council, makes the necessary arrangements with Bail Organa, and heads back to the Shadow Syndicate headquarters. Anakin tells them all what he's told the Senate, but also tells them he will step down as leader of the Shadow Syndicate, that he's decided to walk a new path in life, and he's met the person whom he'll do this with. Shock encompasses the room as IG-88 speaks up.
The penalty for leaving the Syndicate is death. Can I be the one to do it?
And a few others in the room look around and go to grab their blasters, but Bane stands up and tells them to stand down and gives a speech to their members. He tells them that too often in this line of work, people don't quit before it's too late and never get to live the life they truly want and spend the fortunes they've earned. But Anakin has found his time to step away, and we should all respect that. And maybe we can all learn from him and remember the end goal: financial freedom and a life where we no longer have to kill to survive. The speech has its intended impact on the guild members, and Bane gives Anakin a hug.
I'm proud of you, son. Without you, I never would have realized what I truly wanted from my life. I will forever be grateful.
And Cad Bane gives Anakin a hug. Anakin moves to Coruscant to live with Padme, and the two begin their relationship, falling deeply in love. He's pardoned for his crimes as a bounty hunter due to his role in defeating the Sith and ending the Clone War. He works for her as head of security, and Anakin brings his mother and the Lars family to visit often. They spend every day together for 4 years, and Padme decides her time as a senator is up, and they collectively move to Naboo to start a family of their own. They all move into Padme's lake house mansion with Shmi and the Lars, where their family develops, and Anakin finally has everything he deserves. In the meantime, Bane quits his life as a bounty hunter and decides to spend his time traveling and exploring the unknown and exciting parts of the galaxy. He visits Anakin and Padme often, and wonders what his life would be if he never met Anakin on Tatooine. He's envious of his family and perfect life, but is very happy Anakin got what he wanted. Anakin taught him to care for others, and ultimately inspired him to leave behind the bounty hunter life as he eagerly embarked on this new chapter of his life. If you enjoyed this video, you have to watch What If Anakin Was a Mandalorian Jedi, or What If Anakin Was Born in the Old Republic. Please leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I had a bunch of fun making it, and check out our membership program to support the channel. I really appreciate it. and may the Force be with you.